What's up, guys? It's John at National Sports Entertainment, and I think we might be covering the most ridiculous game in the history of football. And I imagine there's going to be a slew of angry fans wanting answers. So if it's your first time seeing my channel, it's something we go into every single day. And if you watch my channel, then you know my take on this. This game, to me, it's I don't want to say vindication, but there's people that laugh at the notion, oh, a game can't possibly be rigged. Oh my gosh, yeah, they all get together and they have their scripts. I mean, let's just think about this for a second. We have The Rock and Pat McAfee, who were just on SmackDown. The night later, they're at the game day here. And Deion Sanders, has his grudge with the other coach because he talked about his hat, and somehow that means he was going after his mom and all these different things. But let's just talk about the game. As you know, Colorado wasn't losing. I didn't have them losing. I did have them covering, so I was off there. I figured they would need to look pretty darn unstoppable going into Oregon and USC, so I thought they were going to win big. That being said, you can see the narrative of this game was the rivalry, which is just laughable because Colorado State is such a bad team, and we saw how bad they really are. Colorado kept them in the game. We had people that got up to plus, I think, 1,200. It was just so obvious. And for me, so we have just a lot of different people. The game ended, I believe, it was 2:23 when the ball snapped, which is the Freemason number. The ball was on the 23-yard line. It was in double overtime. Back a while ago, I had noticed, and we all noticed different stuff. That's why I made the Discord. But way before overtime, Colorado and Colorado State, you could see the switch flip. And the play is, if you thought the play was odd, then it wasn't just you. Colorado State was playing very aggressive all game. I'm trying to find... And, well, it was around here. He had punted it before here, obviously. It was like an hour ago. But at the time, Colorado State was 4th and 2. It was right here. I said times on issue was a one-score game. I thought going for it would have been a better play. Now, of course, they punted the ball to the 2-yard line. So Sanders would have to have his Brady drill. The Mahomes has gotten it. Josh Allen's gotten it. Caleb Williams got a bunch. They do it in college. They do it in the pros. But, again, just the way the whole thing was set up, to me, is where there's just no more room for debate whether it's scripted or not. So Colorado stays just in it. People were getting, like I said, I got plus 500. I was able to mitigate almost everything from my leg 3 loss. I know people were getting around plus 800. And it's because I'm sure with live action, people were slamming CSU maybe once they were up 8 with a few minutes left. But, of course, Colorado's down exactly 8. Colorado State, again, they're at like about midfield. And it's 4th and 2. And college logic would say go for it. They would have won the game outright. But, of course, they couldn't. They had to punt it to the 2. And that's when we saw, suddenly, Sanders, his guys are getting wide open. He's looking really poised. Timely penalties. We had a guy pull the face mask, and again, I'll take it any day of the week. There's people that'll actually, because it's like the first time seeing this, oh, you're just salty. You picked CSU or whatever the case may be. Like, I did really, really well because of this game, but there's people that actually will somehow think this couldn't be scripted. So you have The Rock and Pat McAfee there. They're hyping up Coach Prime. The whole game they're hyping up Coach Prime. They're calling this a rivalry game despite both teams really never having much of a rivalry, at least in the last 10, 15 years. And Colorado State should not be a rival because they're just awful. So, of course, they have it so close all game. And, I mean, it was downright laughable. I mean, you get to overtime, and suddenly they're playing this deep prevent defense where these guys are getting wide open. And then on the few plays they don't, again, we have timely penalties. So I'm curious people's opinion of this game. I've never had, I went over this on my Discord. I feel like the NFL and college and all these leagues being rigged, finding it out to me is like finding God, because you're like, oh man, I see the world differently now. I found God, right? And it's like I have my faith. And then you do some mushrooms, and you're like, oh man, now I really see the world. I really have a fresh perspective. And then with each epiphany, you feel like you can never get higher than that as far as what you're understanding. For me, watching these rigged games, when I see a game like this, it's just like, okay, like I knew it was bad, but I really didn't realize it would be this bad. So I think we have some very early indications of what's going to happen. Obviously, they are trying to make a lot of rivalries, so this isn't going to be the only rivalry. I expect a lot of close games, and the fact that they barely beat CSU tells me they might actually win next week, because, again, the only way that I think the public would have slammed them if they won this game decisively. I think people are going to look at this and say there's no way this offense is stopping Nix or Caleb. Or this defense, I'm sorry, is stopping Nix or Caleb. So you had Hunter get injured. You had the defense look really bad, really. They haven't looked good all year. And to me, it's just because they're going to, again, they're going to do what they need to do to make sure Colorado wins. Because people kept saying there's no way, Colorado's just going to keep winning. They're not going to pay the public. And I gave up in week 2. I said I'm not going to pick Colorado to lose, because they're, in week 1 against TCU, they were obviously getting so much public action. They won anyway. Week 2, Nebraska, obviously 2 points. They were getting pounded. They won anyway. So here they didn't cover, but of course they got the win. And like I said, just sitting around and waiting for when the obvious rig is going to happen, I've learned is very beneficial. Like I said, my live action alone basically negated the 3 legs, because I had a leg 3 on Colorado covering. So yeah, to me the whole thing was just laughable. I mean, again, going into that final drive, I want to say Sanders had in the 100s as far as passing yards, and he had I think he had 2 touchdowns. He might have had 1, because I think he threw a few in overtime. He had the 1 at the end of the game. So you see he finishes with 350 and 4 touchdowns. And again, for me, it's just the Brady drill. They have to do a better job of it, because what happens is it looks like Madden. You have Sanders suddenly just drop back, and you have guys wide open, or he can just take off and run. And Mahomes is really obvious with it, and it's the defenses that is doing it. Obviously, there's no way the defense is this stupid, grabbing face masks. The on offense they did it with the illegal crack block hit, and just they really all game they were playing fine, and then at the very end we saw the actual teams. It's like they said, okay, now you can actually do what you would normally do. But even at the end, those penalties, there's no way even a crappily coached team is making those penalties. So like I said, there is some examples where it's like, oh, you could tell that this was obviously scripted at this point. For me, this game was so obvious only because, again, a lot of people look at the obvious, or the blatant plays, like the guy wide open in the back of the end zone for Sanders, or the grab in the face mask, or late hits. For me, it was that 4th and 2. There is absolutely no defending that, because time wasn't an issue. If anything, they would have got the ball back. They were playing a deep prevent anyway, so by the 2nd or 3rd play, they were where they would have been had they got the ball from a turnover on downs. So the second that punt happened, and that's the reason I made my Discord. That's when I had told people, I had been saying all along, if you're in my Discord, you know this, I'm like, they're not going to let them lose. Even when they were down 10 points or whatever it was, with not that much time left, it just made no sense to me that they were going to let them lose. The second I saw that punt, the game might as well have gone final. Because not only did I see a very suspect punt, but I saw it punted to inside the 2-yard line, the 1-yard line. And then it was just so obvious that he was going to get the Brady drill. So sure enough, starts driving down the field. And on the few plays where maybe there was miscommunications because they can't get everything perfect, you get flags. So, again, this was just absolutely insane. And I think, again, I had gone into, I don't think Colorado's winning the whole thing this year. Again, they were 400-1 coming into the year. they might be willing to pay the public, but they're not willing to pay them that much. And they were 66-1 coming into this game, and beating Colorado State shouldn't really make much of a difference, so they would probably be still around 60-1. I do think they're going to win the Pac-12. I think that's why you have all these teams leaving the Pac-12, and obviously this Deion hype train is not going to stop anytime soon. Like, there's no way they were going to kill it this weekend. And again, that's why going into Oregon and USC, I'm sure anybody else that saw this live and they saw Colorado at plus odds, if you understand my channel and you understand my line of thinking, if you're not in my Discord, because in the Discord all of us were in unison, like immediately just doubling down on Colorado. But then I think you'll start to see this on your own. Like if you haven't been watching my channel a while and you're still not convinced it's rigged, even if you're not, stuff like this you'll start seeing, like just complete flips of the switch. So yeah, there's not much to go into this game. Like if you saw this game, I can't do it justice by talking about it. It was that bad. And of course it was to set up this rivalry to really get people excited about Colorado. They brought The Rock in, for goodness sake. They were not going to allow this not to be a win for Deion Sanders, of course, going into two of the biggest games now in probably, I want to say, the last like 10 years. I think as far as ratings, Colorado USC might break records, and Colorado Oregon's going to do amazing. This game did really good. So yeah, understanding the story and what they're doing is not difficult. Sometimes, again, like the over-unders, the spreads. I didn't play the over-under this game. I personally would have thought the under, so I probably would have got that wrong, because I would have thought, okay, well, people are going to hammer the over. And again, sure enough, with live action is another thing I like to go over. With live action, it also makes it where 90% of the public can be on a certain line, can be on a certain play. And over the course of the game, with player props, with everything they have now, they can make that back. So even on games like this, people are probably like, oh man, Vegas lost a lot of money. They probably didn't. First, you had people that, if they took Colorado State with the points, and then even if Colorado had covered this game, I still think Vegas can make sure they get their money back, because they're just dealing with so much money. But obviously this game was just to get people, again, reinvigorated with college. It's like watching a movie. Like, there's the only best way I could put it, watching Deion and what he's doing. And I'm very curious what the talking heads say, because they're, the whole thing was this guy, he badmouthed Deion's mom, and he didn't really pay the price for it. I mean, he obviously lost, but I'm curious what they say. They might point out how this means Colorado, they're good, but they have a lot of work to do. But Sanders, they're definitely going to give Sanders his flowers, and the stars. They're Deion and his son. But they might say, as a team, this, TCU vibes, and maybe not even as good as TCU, even though they beat them. They might say something to that effect, where they can't play defense. And I think it's really setting up for a Colorado win and when they play Oregon, because, again, I feel like if someone thinks it's real and they're watching this game, they're going to say, okay, well, they're not doing that against Nix, and they're not doing that against Caleb. He's just going to score every possession, and Colorado didn't score every possession. And again, that's what makes these games so much more obvious. Like, not only did they do really, really bad most of the game, but then it was like when they said, okay, now it's time to score, they were perfect. Like, they went from looking like the Browns of old offense to the Chiefs in their prime in just a matter of minutes. And it was just so obvious. So like I said, like after games like this, there's always like a ton of people that say, you know what, I believe it's rigged now, and they thought it was real. A lot of times fans of the losing team, or even fans of the winning team. After this game, I can't imagine anybody thinking that this isn't scripted. Again, you have The Rock there, just returned to SmackDown. He's with Pat McAfee. The announcers all game were setting it up. On the flags, the second the flag was thrown on a lot of them, they're like, oh man, I saw that hold. That was a bad hold. Like, just selling it, because on a lot of cases they had to call ticky-tack once. Like the late hit on Sanders, like they're like, ooh, and it was like a perfectly normal hit. So the announcers really do their part. that it's definitely a group effort. I can say that, but I have to say this is the most ridiculous game I have ever seen. If somebody challenges me that football is not rigged, I will submit this as my evidence, along with a WrestleMania match. And I promise you the WrestleMania match will be less predictable and more realistic looking. Just every part of this game was absolutely insane. Like I said, I guess it's fitting it ended on the Freemason number. So, yeah, not much to go into. There's a few games I didn't pick for tomorrow. I went over in my last video because this was still outstanding. And at the time, they were down a touchdown. And I had gone into how there was no way they were going to lose. Even at that point, they were almost even odds. So I feel like anybody that saw this probably made a killing, especially the people that got in. I know a bunch that got in at plus 500 or better on my page. So anyway, let's go into tomorrow's game. Now, for the 4 o'clock games, I'm not going to be playing them all, but I'll be playing a few. Right off the bat, we have Jets-Cowboys. And I have a feeling we're going to get something reminiscent of last week and in favor of the Jets. I like the Jets because I think nobody is going to be taking them after they completely eked out a lucky win against Buffalo, and how Dallas blew the Giants off the field. There's going to be no way that anybody thinks Wilson can do anything for the Jets. Now, the question is, do I take the points or the cover or the money line? I actually like the money line. I really do. It's 3-1. It's only going to be a leg one. So I think it's a good play because this is a perfect opportunity to make the Jets the defense of the NFL. So right now you got the Cowboys, the Niners, the Jets. The Bills have a good defense. The Chiefs have a good defense with Jones when he's in. So a lot of good defenses. The Lions are looking okay. But I think they have to establish the defense. And Dallas just looked so good on defense. I think the Jets need to have the better defense. So I'm expecting a bad game from Dak. I'm expecting a very, very low-scoring game. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if it was like 20-13 or something like that. And I like the Jets for a straight-up win in this game. Again, it's a leg one, so if they don't win for leg two, I'll probably play one of the night games or something. But for a leg one, it's worth it. And I think there's a really good chance the Jets win. Nobody is going to be on them, in my opinion. This one's interesting because it was brought up to me that, and I'm going to stick with the logic, in my Discord, Agwal had brought up how the Rams, obviously, is the name of Colorado State's team, and Dion played for San Francisco. And I think that the games are going to be contingent. So had the Rams won, I would have liked the Rams here. But honestly, I do like the Niners anyway. Again, I think the way Dallas just wrecked the Giants, I think the Niners are going to get a win like that. So they're giving up 7. Then the Rams are at home. Initially, I thought maybe they want to keep this a close rivalry, and they'll give it to the Rams. But I honestly think that the Rams are still going to be not a very good team this year, and I think they're really going to have the Niners look really strong. Now, as you know, I still like them to win it in the NFC, but I mean, if you look back, a lot teams looking strong, it's not like they're red herrings. Last year, the Eagles were the ones who looked strong. They won. They went to the NFC Championship. On the other side, the Chiefs obviously looked strong. They went to the AFC. They won the whole thing. So it's not like it's out of the norm for a team to look strong. And I'm noticing a lot of things about Brock Purdy, and I don't think they're going to kill his streak. I think he still has his streak going. So not against the Rams. I think like when he's starting and he's not hurt, I still think he's undefeated, or I think he's one loss, but he's won his last 7 games in a row or something like that. And they've been talking about the streak a lot. So I like Brock personally. The Niners here to cover the 7 points. And then I'm not going to play the Commanders-Broncos. It's just one of those games that I personally don't. With the Broncos last year, I every time, whatever I picked, the opposite happened. For like 4 straight weeks, I picked Russell Wilson right, and then I couldn't get anything right about them. I'm not sure what they're doing with the Broncos. If I had to lean, I'd probably lean Commanders just because I do think that the entire NFC East might get in the playoffs. Still not positive on the Giants, but I think they will. And the Broncos, I'm not seeing anything where it's like, oh, they've changed and they want to make them a playoff team this year. And then finally, we got the Giants. I like them to cover the 4 points. I think they like Daniel Jones enough to again, they're openly talking about how the Cardinals are tanking, and this is a game where I don't see a ton of public action, so it's not a game that, in my opinion, they're going to pay out the public a ton if the public picks the Giants. So that's just my opinion. I like the Jets to win straight up. It's about 300, 3-1. I like the Niners to cover the Rams, and I like the Giants to cover the Cardinals. And again, I don't like the Commanders game simply because I think that it's a 50-50. I feel like it can go either way. So as you can see, these are all leg ones. Oops, hold on one second. I got a bunch here. These are all leg ones that I already picked in my last video. I just do this in advance so people can see exactly every pick that I make. And the three I like here, again, are Jets to win outright. Since it's only a leg one, I think it's worth it. And it's going to be around 300, like I said. So I think that's good odds. And leg one just means that we're only betting 1 unit. Leg 2 means we're going to bet 2 units, and leg 3 means we're going to bet 3 units. And I do it this way because obviously anything can happen. So at the end of the day, as I always go over, the numbers bear out. So we only have to win 7 sequences for every 3-leg loss. And we usually lose a 3-legger, I'd say, every 10 to 12 sequences. So it winds up where we are going to profit in the long term. So Niners for the cover. I like it. I think 7 points is a little... The Niners have looked good, so obviously 7 points is about right. You could even say it's a little light. But in LA with this rivalry, I still think... I don't see people completely pounding the Niners. I think there's more appealing games. So this is another one that's just going to be a leg 1 for 1 unit. And our final one is going to be the Giants. I do think that they're going to rebound, and I really think the entire NFC East gets in the playoffs. They've been teasing this for a little bit now. They just did it in basketball, too. The entire Atlantic Division made it in, if you include the play-in. So I just think it's an interesting narrative, and they market to certain areas, if you notice. So they'll really market to New York or, the Northeast. They'll market to the West. And they've really been marketing the Northeast. Like I said, the entire Atlantic Division got in. If you look at baseball, a lot of their teams are looking strong. So I think the Giants are going to cover the Cardinals here. And Jones will be back to being talked about like he's a decent quarterback. So I'm not, like I said, I'm not playing every game. Sorry about that. But these are the ones I am playing. And means we're playing most of the games this weekend, outside of like 2 or 3. And I have a feeling we're going to have a good day. It's my birthday, so I have the misfortune of sharing a birthday with Patrick Mahomes, but I'm thinking maybe we'll get pretty lucky and I'll do pretty good on my birthday, so we'll have to see. Hopefully it's a decent birthday. Little fun fact, I got shut down on Christmas, going into the rigged NFL and the rigged leagues. And there was when my account had hit 1,000 subscribers, I never got to see it because I got the email when I was at like 990 something. I guess I crossed over and then they looked at my account and shut me down. This time I don't think that's going to happen. Like I had gone into, I didn't apply for anything, so they shouldn't look at my account. But I did think what irony that would be, or how fitting it would be if they shut me down on Christmas and my second channel gets shut down on my birthday. So if that does happen, that'd be pretty evil, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think we'll be fine. I think I would have been shut down by now. So yeah, here's all of our plays. Like I said, I had gone over the 1 o'clocks. For the Raiders, I did decide to go with the spread instead of the money line because I don't think we're going to get a bunch of crazy upsets. And I like the Jets upset more than the Raiders. But I think the Raiders might keep it a very close game. The Falcons is the only leg 2 I'm playing. We don't have a bunch of open sequences, so there's really no need to play it. Like I said, we did pretty good with college today. We had Colorado covering, so that one obviously didn't hit. Like I said, if anybody was watching, though, I'd imagine any time Colorado was even remotely close to even odds, anyone that understands it's scripted piled on them, I hope, because there was just no way they were going to lose. And they kept it so perfectly close where they were just there to be in it at the end. So I imagine people that understand it's scripted probably did pretty good with the game simply because of how ridiculous it was. You can let me know if you can think of a game that that's more ridiculous than that one. I personally have never seen one. I know TCU had a couple like it last year, but I've never seen it that where it was like both teams were working together in unison so much. They might as well have been dancing. I stand by my logic that I think wrestling is more realistic now. So yeah, I think it's good because I think it means because it was such a close game with such a crappy team that they do plan on letting Dion win against Oregon. Against Oregon and USC, I don't think he'll beat both, but I don't think he's going to lose both. So obviously we're going to have plus odds in both of those games. So I'm going to be playing them both, obviously, and playing Dion to win because, again, I don't think they care about paying the public at this point. So yeah, those are my plays. Like I said, there's a few I'm not playing. I'm not playing the Chargers, Titans, and the Broncos, Commanders. I think those are the only two I'm not playing. There might be, or the Bucks, Bears I'm not playing. To me, there's just some games with the teams suck, and there's really no reason to play them because there's no narratives. The lines don't look really weird, and they can go either way. So those are the three I'm not playing. But yeah, I just wanted to go into all the ones I am. If you just wanted to tell me, and the Jets is the only one where I'm going with the great upset, just because I think there's a good chance they will because nobody's going to be taking them. So yeah, please let me know what you think of this Colorado game. I would like to see somebody try and argue that that was a real game. Because I always get people that, for the most part, people understand. But I will get some people that are like, oh, you must be a Deion Sanders hater or something like that, where it's like, that's nonsense. He just, made me 5-1 on a live action bet. So, I understand that some people still think it's real. But to me, this game was the epitome of scripted WWE making its way into football, with The Rock literally cutting a promo before the game. So I'm very, very curious to see what Coach Prime said in his post-game speech. And I'm curious just to see how they talk about this. I'm curious to see how Pat McAfee, who made fun of us for calling the league scripted, is going to talk about this game on his show tomorrow. Because there's no way. Like, they made the commercial, if you remember, at the beginning of the year, saying, oh, yeah, we just sit around with a playbook. And then we just saw, like, a perfect example of how not only can it be scripted and choreographed, but it could be scripted and choreographed down to the minute. And, yeah, for me, if, again, there was no question, but if you thought that punt was odd, don't think, oh, yeah, I'm just being crazy. Because there's probably millions of people who also thought at the same time, why are they punting it here? They could almost guarantee a win. They had been doing pretty good on 4th and short, 3rd and short. So it didn't make any sense outside of to give Colorado that ridiculous drive where they played probably the worst defense I've ever seen played, and then continued to play that horrible defense for 3 straight overtime periods when they were shutting them down the entire game. So, yeah, for me, there's really nothing else I need to see. I already saw it all in the Super Bowl, but this to me just completely took the cake. It was more ridiculous than Mahomes running on a fake sprinted ankle, only because this required both teams blatantly working together to make sure that Colorado won. And obviously Colorado's a more talented team, but at the end there, the penalties were just so obvious, where they were not only stupid, but they were unnecessary, So yeah, for me, it was the punt. That was the most obvious. To me, that's like if I had to say up the switch turned, it was on that very play. The coach didn't even think about it. He just punted the ball and didn't even try and get a hard count, like, and then take the delay of game. It really made no sense at all. So, you can let me know what you think. I'm always up for discussion. If you think I'm wrong and that was a perfectly up-and-up game, then please submit the evidence showcasing that, or give me an example of how that could have possibly been anything but scripted. And if you have been following and you're like, yeah, that game was absolutely insane, then yeah, I think it just means we're going to have a better read going forward. Now I'm really, really convinced. I'd gone into how outside of looking, really bad, which I was almost positive wasn't going to happen, the only way now people are not going to be taking Dion over Oregon is like this close win against Colorado State. Because, or if they had lost another game, like if they had lost Nebraska in a close fashion, then they're pretty good. But the fact that they're undefeated, but they just barely beat a team that is awful, I think most people in the public, it's still going to get them off of Colorado enough for them to have them win next week. Because anybody with logic that thinks it's real, again, they're just going to say, well, they might be able to stop these guys, but there's no way they're going to stop or compete with, go back and forth with Nix or Caleb, because against Colorado State, it was barely enough for the comeback. There's no way. So I think it was just a sly way of making Colorado look a little weaker, so now when they play Oregon, there'll be enough money on Oregon. Again, I could be overthinking it, but I've been watching this stuff for a pretty long time, and again, even for me, this was probably the most ridiculous game I've ever seen. Again, if you've seen one that looked more scripted, let me know. I'll gladly look into it. But I've never seen, again, to the point where we were predicting exact outcomes of the drives, like by the fourth quarter, and like everything that was going to happen. And the second a flag come out, it was obvious who it was on. Just basically everything. Like, it's one that would be very interesting to watch back, just to see the body language of a lot of the players. And I know it was brought up, a few people brought up to me that they were showing the trophy a lot. So this could be a little bit of a precursor. They could be letting us know Colorado's winning the Pac-12. And I think they will. I don't think they're going to win the whole thing, but I think they'll win the Pac-12. So anyway, I think we have a good day tomorrow. Like I said, as the season progresses, obviously stories become more apparent. I think the Bills, Josh Allen's going to be a big one, having a rough year. That's why I like the Raiders to cover. Oh yeah, and we do have the Jags winning straight up. So besides the Jets, we have the Jags winning straight up. To me, this one's like a Colorado, really, really obvious. As far as, I don't think Trevor Lawrence can lose this game. Just like Coach Prime's got his hype train, you have the anti-hype train for the Chiefs because they have a pretty discombobulated looking team, and you have the hype train for Trevor Lawrence saying, hey, is he top 3? So to me, this is, if you had to pick like, I need one game that, a lock or whatever you want to call it, I would definitely go with Jacksonville. So yeah, hopefully we have a good day tomorrow. I think maybe we'll get lucky for my birthday. We'll see. Like I said, I happen to share a birthday with Mahomes, so I'm hoping he loses on his birthday, and I think he does. So again, thank you everybody, because we are officially, if not now, probably by the time I wake up, over 1,000, which, again, I'm not really a numbers person. I'm not monetizing, so it doesn't really mean that much, but it does mean a lot that 1,000 people decided to be kind enough to subscribe and even like my channel a little bit. And, obviously, like I said from the beginning, this is more of a movement than anything else. I expect by the end of the year there to be a lot of people saying, what the heck is going on in sports, just because of how ridiculous everything is looking. I'm sure there's a lot of numbers and symbolism in the game. This is just my first reaction to it. So if there's a thing I missed, like symbolism or something the announcer said, please let me know. I didn't watch the whole Colorado game. I was just kind of tuning in and out. And then the fourth quarter, when it was 28-20, I started watching, and after, seeing all these turnovers and these punts, all of a sudden, Colorado couldn't be stopped, and it just seemed like two different teams. So I find it really interesting. This will be Mahomes' first time going 0-2, and I think he's going to. So they've been talking about that a lot as well. So I have a feeling that Jacksonville wins this game. Like I said, it's probably my favorite play of the week. And again, so thanks to everybody. We got shut down the last time, so we didn't really get to celebrate anything. If you guys want, I could do a live pretty soon. If not tomorrow night, maybe Monday night. Tomorrow's my birthday, so I'll be doing a few things. But maybe for the Monday Night Football game, we could do a live video. So take care, everybody, and happy earnings.